Morning. We're here with Jackie from Airworth Property. Thanks for joining us, Jackie. Um, you're obviously based up north. Tell us a bit about what you do and what you've done so far in your property journey.
Hi Dan, nice to be here. So we're based in Keighley near Bradford. Nobody can pronounce it. It's Keighley, not Keighley. And we concentrate really on buy-to-let, some for the private sector, but mainly for social housing. We do some flips in between because that helps put some money in the coffers. But the big focus is generally on doing buy-to-lets. So we started 2017 and I think we've done about, I did it up the other day, something like 36 properties in the last 4 years or something like that, because we do some sourcing as well. So again, we source for clients who want to get involved with social housing mainly. So lots of old Victorian properties around Keighley that need lots of work. So lots of refurb headaches across the years.
Awesome. So that's exactly why we're here. What's just, we're going to ask some questions about refurbs and hopefully help some people out. What's the biggest thing you found as a challenge, or people use the word mistake? I don't know if that's quite the right word, but so when you've been doing refurbs, what's the biggest mistake you've made, I guess?
We've just made a bit of a whopper, to be fair. So we've been doing what you would call a quarter house. So it's where you've got 4 houses that literally all join in the middle. So they're all kind of back to back and side to side. So they look like semis from the front and semis from the back. So Victorian quarter house on 4 floors. So basement, kitchen, lounge, and what used to be bathrooms now, a study come 3rd bedroom, then bedroom, and what was another bedroom we made into a bathroom, and then an attic bedroom. So in the basement kitchen, the deal went really well in terms of the client actually has agreed to buy it before we even started the refurb. So we're doing it to their spec. Awesome. So put the kitchen in, measured it all up, planned it all, perfect, looked really nice. But what we forgot to account for was that there was beams in the kitchen. So where we have or had the fridge freezer, you couldn't open the door fully because it was too high.
Okay.
Which is an absolute pain, because you can get away with not opening a cupboard 100% and still being able to get stuff in, but you really can't get away with not opening a fridge freezer, because yes, you can get stuff in, but they all have these salad drawers in now, don't they?
Yeah.
So if you can't open it, you can't really use it properly. So we bought everything. Literally everything was in situ. The kitchen fitter's there, and it's like, I've got a bit of a problem. So we all rush over there, try and work out what's going on, and having to replan. So we had to take the big fridge freezer back. We had to get under-counter fridge freezers, and of course we have to then agree it all with the client, because we'd agreed it with the client beforehand. And to be honest, they were fine. And we've kind of kept the look because we've put a tall cupboard in instead of a fridge freezer where that should have been. And that opened, it opens enough that you can get stuff in and out really easily, but just not enough to get those salad drawers out.
Yeah.
Word of advice, if you're doing an old house, look at the ceiling as well as the walls.
Brilliant. Yeah, I've seen that. We came up and saw that property, didn't we? It looks really, really, really nice the way that you've transformed that. So, yeah, taking salad drawers out and cleaning and all that kind of stuff, yeah, I guess would be an absolute nightmare. Cool. So you've been doing property for how many years now?
We bought our first one. We did training in 2017, and we bought our first investment property January 18.
Cool.
So what's that, 4 years?
Yeah. So while you've been doing refurbs on properties, then what's your biggest learn that you've taken away from doing them?
Never assume. Never assume. Do not think that what you have in your head, builders, trades understand, because they do not see what you see. And if you do not communicate that enough, in terms of specified enough and often enough, what you end up with is not what you imagined.
Yeah.
So keep on visiting the property to make sure that what's going on is what you expect. Give them a detailed spec in words and pictures.
Absolutely.
And make sure they're following it, and walk round with them, and don't assume that when they're looking at the plan where you've drawn on sockets here, light switches here, this is a two-way switch, we're putting the bed here, that actually they are looking at it. So walk round with them and go, there's two sockets there, that light switch needs to be two-way. Otherwise, a lot of them just do what they think. That ain't what I asked for. Yeah, but I thought this would be okay. But you thought wrong, because it isn't what I asked for.
Yeah, that specification being really clear at the start is absolutely crucial.
Absolutely. And as they always say, isn't it? It's like failing to plan is planning to fail. And we felt really bad at the beginning in terms of these guys have been trades probably for years and we're just starting out. And it's like teaching your grandmother to suck eggs. And we can't be too detailed, too specific, because they know what they're doing. Actually, that just ends up as a disaster waiting to happen, because yes, they know what they're doing, but they don't think about what a different trade's doing. So the electrician's not thinking what the plumber's doing.
Yeah.
The gas engineer's not worried about what the central heat, the plasterer's doing. The decorator's off with it without realising that should have had some skirting put on by the joiner. So unless you employ a building firm who are managing all the trades, they don't talk, they don't interact, they don't think about the impact on one of the other trades. And employing a building firm, one, can be expensive. Two, quite often you get into VAT as well, which adds another 20% onto your refurb. And sometimes you have to manage them too. So we employed a building company to do a flip we did in the summer. We ended up managing it because their trades that they had still didn't talk to each other and still did their own thing. So just be on site as much as you can and make sure they are doing what you've got in your head, what you've put down on paper, and what you expect the end result to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So
and check before you pay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, being absolutely clear from the get-go when you're setting people up, and the checking piece, invaluable. Great, thank you for that. So you just said about your, I guess we may have touched on it with the beams, but what's the one thing you do differently on your last refurb?
Literally, be harder, because I think.
Oh, I think your sound's gone. Are you still there?
Can you hear me?
That's better.
Sorry, I leant back. Be harder. That is one thing that we would do more strictly, because it's really difficult in the current climate where people are getting COVID and things are happening, but also people are using COVID as an excuse. It's like the number one excuse. It's perfect for not turning up because they've got COVID, somebody's got COVID, somebody's tested positive or whatever. And I know that is really difficult to call. But if people don't communicate, then you can't work like that. And sometimes we just give people too much leeway and allow them to drag things out and allow the project to overrun. And at the end of the day, that costs us money. And we forget that bit. We go, oh, well, they'll be back next week or tomorrow or whatever it is. And I think sometimes we've just been, I don't know if scared is the right word, but it's that balance, isn't it, between trying to get trades at the moment to turn up because people are throwing money at them, and working with the trades that you've got and trying to be a bit lenient and understanding, and finding a balance between those two things so that people aren't taking the mickey, but you're not left high and dry. And that's the thing that's really, really hard at the moment. And I think we made the mistake of sometimes just paying people because it's like, yeah, they're all desperate on a Friday, aren't they? And if we're not getting into check, we've gone, right, okay, well, we'll trust you, we've paid you. and then you can't see them for dust.
Yeah.
So we would be harder, and I think that's our big thing for 2022 is just to be more systemized in terms of how we pay, how we check, and how we deal with the trades.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that. That's really honest of you. Yeah, the one thing people don't really account for is that time, and those little delays soon add up and knock over. And at the end, you all of a sudden you're paying extra bridging fees. You've got lost rental. You've got the time for someone to come back and redo something that's then stopping someone else, etc., etc. So, yeah,
it's impact on the schedule and holding costs as well. I think we always forget, but we often forget. We're so concentrating on the cost of the refurb, as in labour and materials, we actually forget that time is relevant to the holding costs, because you might be paying an angel, or like you say, bridging for longer. You've got your utilities costs, you've got your council tax. And utilities and council tax, I think, are the big thing that's a bit of a hidden cost, because they're the bits that kind of get forgotten about.
Yep.
And the more it goes on, and the bigger those costs are, and it affects your profit, affects your return.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you're in it to make a profit, because everyone's got to live.
Yeah.
Cool.
We've got to eat.
Yeah. So
maybe not as much as we have, but we've got to eat.
Absolutely. What's the one thing you always put into your refurbs?
So it probably varies between whether we're doing a flip or whether we're doing a buy-to-let.
Okay.
So if we're doing a buy-to-let property, most of the time we change the kitchen. It's very unusual that we don't change the kitchen. And we've kind of learned that when we change the kitchen, we always put in magnet luna. Always. Because it's easy to clean, because it's a slab kitchen. There's no handles for tenants to pull off. There's no handles for trays to put on wonky, because that is a real bugbear. It's a decent, it's not the bottom of the range kitchen, it's kind of the next one up, so it's a bit more robust. Because again, I think sometimes you can get caught by using the cheapest, but actually that costs you more in the long run, because it doesn't last as long, and you end up having problems with it. So we pretty much always will put in a Luna kitchen, because that tends to work the best. We don't really put in fitted appliances in buy-to-lets, other than oven and hob. And again, we always put a ceramic hob in rather than a gas hob, because I kind of have this worry with gas hobs that, one, I don't cook on gas anyway for start, but also I just worry that if somebody leaves the gas hob on, again, it's just a lot more risk to the tenant. It's a lot more risk to the property if something happens. So I have a real aversion to gas hobs. So we'll pretty much, even if it's got a gas hob in, change it to a ceramic hob. We end up usually take out gas fires. So the only gas we have in the property is the central heating system. And the other thing is make sure that there's a fan in the bathroom, because so often you go into properties and there's no fan in the bathroom. And as we know, that is such a big thing towards the amount of mold and condensation, that the tenants then tend to go, well, my house is moldy, I've got this problem. Yeah, you've got a problem because the air's not circulating. So that's the other thing we always look for in every property. But in a flip, probably posh taps, because people get wowed when they're buying a property by the little things. And the little things don't necessarily have to cost the earth. So like we did one earlier in the year, and we put in one of those taps. It wasn't a hot water boiler tap, but one of the ones with a wiggly bit that it looks more modern. People think that you've put that much more thought and effort into it. And in the bathroom, we put like waterfall taps in rather than just normal taps. They don't really cost that much more, but actually for the wow impact, they're worth the money, totally. Yeah. So, and in a flip, we always put a backlit mirror in the bathroom.
Right.
Again, just for the wow. It just makes such a difference. People walk in and they see this mirror with this kind of glow behind, and they just get that upmarket luxury feel. So Those two things I would say.
Awesome. Yeah, with flips, it's the things that people can touch that will make the difference every time. So door handles and all those kind of things. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Nice one. So just thinking back to the first refurb you did then 4 years ago now. And I guess you get that kind of feeling, don't you, about, oh, you can remember that
remember it really well.
Yeah. So what would be the one piece of advice you'd give to someone who's in that situation about to start their first refurb?
First thing, get your numbers right. So on that particular refurb, we assumed, or no, we thought the refurb was going to be about 8 grand and it was 16. So we were a bit off the mark. So, and with those numbers, bear in mind at the moment that materials and labour have gone through the roof. So absolutely check your figures and make sure your numbers are right. And plan, like I said before, to make sure everybody knows what page you're on and what the expectations are. And if it does, particularly if you're doing a buy to let, if it doesn't add value, don't do it. And that's adding value in terms of your refinance value or your rental value. Because if it's not adding to either of those, just because you like it, do you really need it? And we used to have this battle, Steve and I used to have this battle right at the start, where I had this thing like watching lots of property programs. I desperately wanted to put a built-in soap dish in the bath shower areas.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where you have like the tiles come down, you've got this like recess that you put all your bottles. Yeah. Got to do it. And he's like, no, it costs too much money. How can it cost more money? Because I didn't really understand. But obviously you've got to build up, you've got that much more storage, you've got more stuff around, more just to make the recess so big, just to put your shampoo bottles in. Nobody cares. Okay, in a flip, it might just add that luxury touch if it works, but people aren't buying that house because it's got a soap dish. It might be a nice extra and add to the wow factor, but truly, it is not a deal breaker. No. And it took me probably 3 properties before I gave up on the soap dish. But little things like that, it's the gold tap scenario. Mm-hmm. You don't need gold taps in the majority of the properties that we're doing. You know, if you're doing, you know, £500,000, £1 million houses, you think of things differently. But realistically, where we're doing 2-3 bed terraces or smaller semis or 3-bed semi for rental or flip, make sure that what you do is at the right level for the market you're targeting. And don't waste the money.
Wise words. Thank you. I'm sure there's plenty of things in there that will help people out who are just starting out in refurbs and stuff like that. So thank you for sharing those experiences with us. What's 2022 got in store for Airworth Properties?
Oh, big goals. So we've got 2 projects on the go or in conveyancing at the moment, which I'm shooting down after this to meet the builders down there. So one's a 3-bed semi that needs a refurb, but quite a big semi. The other is a 2-bed bungalow with a barn that we're going to convert the barn to 3-bed semis. So they're sort of the immediate thing. Constantly looking for more stuff. We want to get 6 social housing projects this year, 6 private rental projects this year, do 4 flips, and source 2 properties a month. So we need housing.
Yeah, that's a great goals to have. So if people want to see how you get on with those goals, then how can they follow you on social media?
It tends to be me mainly that's at the face of the company. Steve does all the work and I just sit at the front talking.
Cool.
So Instagram, it's Jackie Collier Property. On Facebook, I've got my own personal page. Then we've got Airworth Property Solutions, Airworth Property Sourcing, and then Jackie Buys Houses, Keighley, Bingley, Bradford, Shipley, and LinkedIn, Jackie Collier. So there are main things. We're just having a website built at the moment, so that's not up and running yet, but watch this space. Hopefully that will be coming in the next month or 2.
Awesome. Well, I will definitely be watching, and good luck with all of those goals.
Fabulous. That's
Thanks for your
great.
time.
Thanks very much. Take care. Bye now.